These are the crusty headlights of my dad's Chevy Lumina SS, and over the last couple of weeks, this is what I've transformed them into. You can see I've added the beautiful red angel eye kit on there, as well as some detailed badge work. I did this all by myself at home with DIY tools, so if you want to do this on your vehicle, come with me to find out how I did it on mine. I forgot to record the polishing step, but the second step is to throw it in your wife's oven at 110 degrees Celsius for 7 minutes so that it'll help loosen up the rubber seal and we can separate it a little bit easier in the next step.
7 hours later.
Okay, so this is it fresh out of the oven. I've taken out all the bulbs, all the screws. There's only 2 screws there. There's quite a few clips that we've got to take out. You can see one there, another one here. So we're just gonna have to pry it up a little bit. And I'm gonna start in this corner here first. And then once it's loose, I'm just gonna muscle it out, just so that I don't damage too much of the plastic. Okay, so I finally got it split, and I just gotta make my way all the way around and it should just pop right off. So I've got the headlight taken apart, and you can see it's quite simple construction, at least for the older vehicles. We've got the high beam projector there, we've got the low beam halogen style old school right there, and we've got the turn signal right here. So it's pretty basic, and then the only other piece that we have is the polycarbonate front with some trim pieces in the back, which we can quite easily strip apart and modify. So I think with that being said, we can start with the modifications that we need to do to the interior of the housing, and I think we're going to start with the modification of the old school halogen style reflector to a more modern projector style high beam. So I've started off by disassembling the headlight, and the first step is to remove the side indicator reflector, and it's just held on by 2 screws, and this is to give me enough space to pry at these 3 clips. The 3 clips is what holds the sub-assembly that has the high beam and low beam reflector mounted onto it, and after a couple minutes of prying, which was quite difficult, the entire sub-assembly disconnects as one complete piece, and we just have the park light cable which is connected to the bulb on the high beam reflector. So the reasoning for this is because there are adjustment points on the back of the housing which allow you to adjust your headlight up and down as well as left and right. Now here I'm just removing the bulb housing as well as the reflector from the sub-assembly itself, and that basically completes the disassembly for the high beam reflector. So this is the reflector that's come off the vehicle, and I've just noticed a small problem. It's got a slot for a park light right there, which is interfering with this 2.5-inch projector lens kit that I bought from AliExpress. So this actually fits in the existing hole and is meant as a retrofit, but unfortunately I can't get it to sit flush because of that park light right down there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to have to take a drill and grind this down, and hopefully that'll make this projector lens fit. There's a couple modifications I need to do on this as well, because this actually has a tiny window which can act as a high beam and a low beam. It's actually controlled with a small little solenoid. I want this to be purely a high beam, so I'm going to remove this cable and this extra part inside, and then hopefully it'll fit together properly. I'm using some sandpaper attachments on my drill to basically eat away at the plastic to get it as flush as possible. It's not perfect, but any inconsistencies will be hidden by the actual projector. So I decided I wanted to change the inside of the headlight reflector. I wanted to black it all out so it looks pretty mean at night, especially with the red angel eyes. So I painted the inside of the reflector gloss black. It's going to be quite hard to see any details in there, which is kind of the idea. I gave it a coat of primer as well as gloss black spray paint, and then 2K clear to cover and protect the whole thing. It's gonna take probably a month for it to dry properly. I'm gonna give it about 48 hours, especially it's a little bit cold where I am at the moment. So while we wait for that to dry, I'm going to get started with the angel eyes. This is the angel eye kit that I bought from AliExpress. You can see they call this a cotton angel eye kit because of the white ring, the diffuser ring in the front, and we've got red LEDs on the back. This is for the low beam, which is actually bigger. It's a little bit counterintuitive, but this is 95 millimeters, and I've got one that's 70 millimeters to fit on the front of the shroud, which we're going to mount up. This is what the shroud looks like. It's just a piece of gloss plastic which matches the OEM low beam shroud almost exactly. So we're just going to marry the two pieces together with some epoxy, and it's going to look pretty good. Angel eyes are pretty much complete and ready for reassembly on both the low beam and the high beam. I want to do a little bit more customization. I think it looks good, but I think we can do a little bit more. I don't want to go over the top, so I sat with it for a couple of days, and what I think I'm going to do is make some modifications to the side marker plastic cover. It's got a nice little cavity right here, which I think if I black it out and add an SS badge on there, I think it's going to look really nice. So what I'm going to do is mask this off with some masking tape, spray paint this whole area black on the outside and the inside, just because I don't want that bulb light to shine through, or I want it to be totally black, or at least as black as possible. And then I'm going to find a way to mount the SS badge onto the front of this, which will be 3D printed in white plastic. This is the 3D printed SS badge. You can see I have 2 pins on the back, and I've used some white Tamiya paint. I've just dabbed it on and left 2 marks on the plastic lens so I can figure out where to drill the holes and mount the SS badge. I had a lot of issues with this piece of plastic. The SS badge kept on snapping. I had a lot of paint bleed around the edges with the black spray paint. In fact, it got so severe I had to get another headlight to strip and actually take this piece of plastic off. So this has been a 3-day endeavor just to spray paint this black and put an SS badge on there. So it was quite a challenge. The SS badge kept on snapping, especially around these bends. It would snap quite easily, so it was really difficult to work with. But in the end, we got it done. It's not perfect, but I think it looks pretty good from a distance. And I think we can get ready to polishing up all the pieces, getting it cleaned out, and start the reassembly process. We've got a little bit of wiring to do for the angel eyes, and then I reckon we can put this whole thing back together and get it back on the vehicle. This part is pretty uneventful and, to be honest, quite boring even for me to do. So I'm just essentially wiring up the angel eye kit. It came with 2 pigtails, which I guess has a converter of some kind in there, and that's what powers the light for the angel eye. So I just chopped off the bulb for the park light, and I'm wiring it up to that. So this is the headlight housing after I've completed up the wiring. It was just a simple case of wiring these 2 cables on, which is what powers the angel eyes. That, as you saw in the previous clips, I basically cut the park light wires off, and I've hooked it up to that. I've added an extra connector here on the back, which might be a bit difficult to see, but it's exposed in the back of the housing. This is an industrial plug, not an automotive plug, but it should be good enough. And basically what it has is the park light signal for the angel eyes. It has a ground, and it has a signal for the high beam so that I can use it for additional lights, but mainly the important one are for these lights so that I can send the signal down to the angel eyes on the bumper, which we'll do at a later stage. So we're essentially ready for reassembly. We're going to start off with the original housing piece here. I'm missing the bracket that fits on the back, which actually holds down the light. So this is a H7 LED light. It fits in like that, and we obviously don't have the clamp to keep it in place. So I found one here from another project or another headlight, and I'm going to use this on here to hopefully try and get this to fit. So the next step is to clean up this inside of the headlight housing, this plastic trim piece. It looks pretty good. There is a little bit of dust on here. We have to be very delicate. This is going to be extremely easy to scratch up. So I've got a brand new microfiber towel, even though I don't believe that this really does much, to be honest with you. But we've got some cleaner here, window cleaner, and we're just going to spray it down and try to get it as clean as possible. Okay, and that's how it looks with the SS badge on there. It's turned out pretty nice. And I haven't scratched this piece of plastic up too much either, which is good. So we're gonna set this one aside, hopefully not get any more dust on there. And the next piece we'll work on is this piece right here. So now that this piece is cleaned up, we're just going to mount it right here. It's just got one screw and two clips, so it's pretty simple. The two clips go in first. So this is the completed trim piece with the angel eyes for the low beam. That's pretty much all that we can do with this piece right here before assembling it into the housing. So the next step would be to work on the sub-assembly, which is going to be this piece right here. So you're going to have to polish up this lens, take out any of the dust on there, and then do the same thing with this one, mount it on, and then we can fix it into the headlight housing, put the trim piece cover on, and put the lens on top of that. Okay, so I did clean this up before, I just gave it a wipe down. What I need to do next is tighten up this nut on the back, and then it's come with some fixing hardware for the H1 bulb, which I need to mount up. That's pretty simple to do. Okay, so I've put the spring-loaded clip which holds down the bulb. Unfortunately, I don't have the bulb for this just yet. It should be here on Monday. Today is Friday, so couriers won't deliver on the weekend. It looks good from the inside and the outside. I'm quite happy with that. So we can go ahead and mount this to the sub-assembly, very similarly to how we took it off. It's just got 3 screws which hold this one in place.
I finally wanna reach so many heart, souls and feelings.
So this is a beautiful rubber tape. I bought this from Temu. I mean, it's pretty much the same everywhere you go. It comes as a cylinder. This is what it looks like. It's 9mm in diameter. It's almost like a pipe, like a string. The cavity on the headlight is 6mm. The nice thing is it stretches quite easily. As you can see, it's very stretchy. It's not sticky, but it does have some tack to it.
Dreaming.
So this is the inside of the headlight complete. I've cable tied everything neatly. I've just got the 2 pigtails for the angel eyes. Everything is tucked away nicely and we are pretty much ready to go. I've added all the butyl rubber around the edges. Everything's clean. So the next step is to put in the sub-assembly.
That I keep dreaming and I keep going, dancing on my fears. And I keep hoping that time will heal me, drying all my tears. I finally wanna live and build a world where we'll be safe. I finally wanna give.
So after messing around for quite a bit, I got the sub-assembly in. This little white clip was really difficult, but I've got it on. I'm just gonna give everything a wipe down, and then the next step is to put in this reflector which goes in on the side. This reflector was originally chromed plastic. However, when I started wiping it, everything started flaking off. So I stripped off the chrome using sandpaper. It was a very thin layer, and I've used some chrome spray paint. And it's not perfect, it's still got a bit of a dull finish to it, but this is more than sufficient for a side indicator. Unfortunately, no one in Durban does plastic chroming, so we stuck with chrome spray paint for now. This is the polycarbonate lens on top. I've already cleaned up the inside. I've used a tack cloth and wiped off any dust. I've done the same with this piece right here, and essentially these two just fit together. So the way we do that is we put it in the corner first, and it's just got a few clips around the edges that push it into place. And there we have it. That's the polycarbonate lens with the trim piece on the inside done. You can see it looks pretty good. There's lots of scratches on the outside, but we're gonna polish that out later. So as when we started, I've put the headlight back into the oven, again for 7 minutes at 110 degrees Celsius, so we can heat up the butyl rubber. So I didn't get any footage of me putting it back together, but I just used a whole bunch of clamps and pliers to squeeze it together. So this is the headlight after I've pulled it out of the oven. I've let it cool down for a couple of minutes. You can see everything is sealed up quite nicely. You can see the butyl rubber actually squeezing out, which tells me that I've put enough butyl rubber on there. I think I may have put too much. It was quite a challenge to get it all clamped together, which is why I never recorded it. But overall, I'm pretty happy with the look, minus obviously the polishing that needs to be done. I've made a couple of upgrades to the lighting. So let's take a look at the lighting quickly before we continue. So on the back, I've made a couple of upgrades to the lighting. So this is the low beam cap. I 3D printed this cap. We'll go over in a second how I did that. The reason being is I didn't have the original cap anymore, and I've actually installed a xenon bulb in there. So this is a xenon conversion kit. It's a universal kit that you can basically use on any vehicle, and the only modification you need to make is a 25mm hole in the back of your cap. So this was all 3D printed and molded in one piece, and the reason for that is because this comes with a high voltage ballast or some sort of driver, and I guess this is the high voltage here, I'm not sure. And basically we just got to find a way to mount this cable inside the headlight or inside the engine bay. Somewhere, somehow we got to make it work. But it's a pretty much self-contained unit. I didn't want to put it inside the headlight because we've had a couple of these fail, not this particular model, but the high voltage ballast does fail. The other upgrade that I've made is with regards to the high beam. So as you've seen earlier on in the video, the high beam has been upgraded to a projector style housing and lens. The interesting thing is that this is not designed to take an LED, it's actually designed for a xenon bulb, but I didn't want to have one of these ballasts lying around again. I would have to have basically two of these coming out of the headlight, and I didn't want to do that. So Instead, they make this special LED bulb designed specifically for this projector housing. You can see it has a thin shaft and it has a 360-degree LED array on the top. And the nice thing about it is you mount up your fittings and everything onto the headlight itself, and this basically just slides in. It's got some O-rings on there, and it's got a fan unit on the back. The other good thing is that you can use your original cover. So in this case, I've used the factory one. On this side, I've had to 3D print one because, like I said, my dad, I'm pretty sure lost the cap, but I'm certain I'll find the cap when I'm looking for something totally unrelated. I designed the dust cap in Fusion 360. You can see I've made all of the modifications and taken measurements of the headlight itself. And once I was happy with the design, I transferred it over to my 3D printer. This is a resin-based 3D printer, and I'm printing it with a high temperature resin. So this 3D printer essentially uses a screen, projects an image, and uses a UV light, which is the blue light that you can see, to cure the resin in the shape that you desire. And this is the dust cap after I did a little bit of cleanup and removed all the scaffolding. You can see I've got an O-ring here which I'm using to create a proper seal, and I just gave it a coat of black spray paint to help it match the rest of the headlight. So after all this time, I'm finally ready to reassemble the headlights onto the vehicle. There's two cavities, as you can see, one that goes just above the air intake, and the second headlight fits just above the radiator tank on the other side. The installation for both is practically identical. This is one of my cats, Joey, and as you can see, he's a little bit mentally challenged. So the first step is to refit the connector onto the headlight. There's no modifications required. This is just a plug and play application. We've done all the hard work already. The next step is to fit the screws on to get it mounted up to the frame of the vehicle. And it has two screws on the top which are quite easily accessible. I've got a 10mm socket chucked up into the drill. Not ideal, but the threads are so long I thought it would make it a little bit quicker. And on the bottom of the headlight there's an additional two screws. These two screws cannot be accessed until the bumper is off, which is why the vehicle's been sitting in my yard for the last 3 months while we've been working on this project. This tray is what holds the bumper on. It actually clips into the headlight itself, and this has an additional two screws which holds it in place. And once these two screws are on, we get our first look of the headlight on the vehicle itself, and I think it's looking pretty good. I already did the left-hand side of the vehicle off camera. It was pretty much exactly the same steps that you saw in the video earlier, and I'm really happy with how this has turned out. This is the first time I'm seeing the vehicle with both headlights on in the last few months, and I'm really pleased with the overall project. Yo, guys, I must admit, this thing turned out looking flippin' menacing. It looks scary, almost like it's a Batmobile. I can only imagine how cool it's gonna look once I get the fog lights on. I think the first thing I need to do is pull up behind someone on the freeway at night and see what their reaction is, because it's gonna look like Batman is behind them. I'm really pleased with how it's turned out. I just want to say thanks to everyone for watching the video. I hope you like, comment, and subscribe. Haven't made videos in a very long time, but I'm trying to do what I can where possible. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and take care. I'll see you guys in the next one.